Hello and welcome to Raheen Space. This is me, Raheen Fatima, and today we have Anima Patel. I am so happy to be interviewing, and I'm so happy that she agreed to give the time for our interview. And I hope this would be really helpful and informative for our audience. So I think without further ado, let's get to Anima herself. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, Raheen. I'm doing really well, and namaste to all of our viewers as well. Thank you for having me, and I'm really proud of all the work you are doing, actually. I'm really amazed to see how a 12-year-old is conducting interviews and doing everything that you do, basically. I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me, and yeah, I'm excited to be here interacting with you all.
Thank you so much. So, can you please introduce yourself for our audience? Because we could see that really pretty NASA logo here, but we're still, curious.
Yeah. So, yeah, I am currently an Orion Spacecraft Simulations Lab Manager at NASA's Johnson Space Center for Jacobs. I work for Jacobs at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Orion is our spacecraft that we are going to launch our first woman and next man to the moon in. It's as a part of our Artemis missions. I don't know if you've heard about it, but Artemis is NASA's next missions to the moon. So yeah, we have a simulations lab here at JC that I'm managing, which has all the flight software that is going to fly the Orion spacecraft. It's going to be a fully automated spacecraft. So we host it here, and there's a lot of testing going on right now because the flight is going to be in 2024. When the first woman and the next man is going to be traveling to the surface of the moon. And so, yeah, by profession, I'm an aerospace engineer, a software engineer, and I just finished a third master's. So I have a first master's in computer applications, a second master's in aerospace engineering, and a third master's in space studies, human factors, that I just finished in December of last year. And before this role here, I also have been working as an xEMU spacesuit engineer. So the next spacesuit that NASA is developing for astronauts to use on Moon and Mars, it's called the xEMU, Extravehicular Mobility Unit. It's the next version of the current spacesuit that's on the space station. So I got to dabble my hands in as a spacesuit engineer as well for almost a year. And then before this, I've worked on NASA's Kepler mission at NASA Ames Research Center in California. Kepler is a school bus-sized telescope. It was my first NASA mission, so I'm really always excited to talk about Kepler. It's a school bus-sized telescope that was launched in 2009 to look for Earth-like planets in the habitable zone of sun-like stars in our galaxy. There are a lot of stars in our galaxy, right? We are looking for basically the next Earth. Is there a habitable planet like our Earth around a sun-like star in our galaxy? So it was fun to be a part of Kepler mission as well. I worked on it for almost 4 years. And while I'm pursuing all of these things as an engineer, I am also a NASA astronaut aspirant. I aspire to be a NASA astronaut. I've applied in the recent application that NASA opened up. And apart from my full-time job, I'm also a Scientist-Astronaut Candidate for a commercial spaceflight research project called Project Possum. So I've trained for a week as a Scientist-Astronaut Candidate, and then I've flown research missions to test the performance of a spacesuit in zero gravity. And then there were other research missions as a Scientist-Astronaut Candidate. Plus, I also have been a commander for 2 analog missions. This was not related to the Scientist-Astronaut role or my work at NASA, but like I said, I've been aspiring to be an astronaut since I was a little girl, about 7 years. And so I'm still pursuing that goal. And I try to do things that will help me build skills and experience to make a strong NASA astronaut application, right? And that is why I also was a commander for 2 analog missions. One was Human Exploration and Research Analog, which is the HERA here at Johnson Space Center in 2015. And I'll talk more about that eventually. And then in 2018, I was the commander for the Mars analog mission at the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah. So that's a little bit about me. And then I do a lot of other things. I am a Boy Scouts assistant scoutmaster. I am a scuba diver. I also love to do talks for students to give them the guidance that I couldn't get growing up. So yeah, a lot of things. I have a public page. You can find out on that about everything I do.
Yes, and I am like I was having that moment that finally knowing more about the space and everything, because I too have been like for some time the space was really influencing me. But when did you as like a child started developing curiosity about space and the moon and everything?
So I don't remember exactly when it started. I was really small, and we used to sleep on the terrace. Right, I grew up in Jalgaon in Maharashtra, in India, and we would sleep on terrace in summers. I don't know if you guys still do that, but when we were kids, we would sleep in summer on the terrace, and I would look at the stars. And at that time, because there was not this extreme light pollution, we could actually see the arm of the galaxy just sleeping on the terrace. And I would be really fascinated by that. What is up there? What might be up there? I want to go up there in the stars and find out what all is up there. But I didn't know how I would be doing that. But when I was about 7 years, I was studying at St. Joseph's Convent School. And at our school, we had a book exhibition. And in that book exhibition, I saw some books with pictures of astronauts laying on their back. And that's when it occurred to me, if I become an astronaut, then I can travel to the stars. So this is what I want to become. I want to become an astronaut. But again, I was just 7, didn't know what it would take to become an astronaut. But while I was growing up, I was a lot into books. We did not have the internet or the social media at that time, right? So books were my only resource. So and I would read up a lot, news and books. And I knew Rakesh Sharma ji was the only astronaut who launched through the Russian space program, and he was a fighter pilot. So then it occurred to me, you know what? He was a fighter pilot, so he would got to become an astronaut. So maybe I should also become a fighter pilot. And even though the Indian Air Force was not applying, accepting women as fighter pilots, I thought by the time I grow up and I finish my education, maybe they will start accepting. So I decided to do a bachelor's in physics because my dad was like, whatever you want to study here, you have to study here in Jalgaon itself. Our families were conservative at that time, right? So no traveling outside of Jalgaon for engineering degree. So I couldn't do the engineering, and that is how I ended up doing bachelor's in physics. But I really loved physics, astrophysics, astronomy. I did my final year project. I geared everything towards astronomy. So yeah, I did my bachelor's. I bought the Air Force application. The first criteria was you have to be a male. I ignored that. I went on to the next criteria, and it needed you to have a perfect 20/20 vision, which was not the case with me. I had a slight myopia at that time. So it was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? I couldn't apply. So it was like my life is over because I had geared everything towards it. I was even a part of the National Cadet Corps where we train to be like, just to train myself, just to challenge myself. I would run for miles every day before I would get up and go to college, prepare for college. I would teach students in my dad's coaching classes. He had coaching classes, so high school students, science, English, and math. And then I would go to college. So it was a very busy life I had, and everything I tried to do was towards that. But I couldn't apply to the Indian Air Force, so then I eventually gave that up. And my dad suggested there was a new Masters in Computer Applications program that had started at our university. So I applied. It was challenging to get in. There were only 30 seats. I got in. I did my master's. And from there, then I became a software engineer, worked in Mumbai for a couple of years, got to come here to the US on H1B as a software consultant. While working as a software engineer in the software industry, I was watching the space shuttles launch regularly. We were building the International Space Station together in the space, right? In the orbit, we have a lab, the space station. So the space shuttles were launching regularly to build that space station up there. So I was watching that. And I found out there's a NASA center close by. So that started triggering my dream again, like, I want to do this again now. I had a 3-year-old son, a full-time job, and I decided to do a second master's in aerospace engineering. So that's how the whole journey has been. Long journey, full of hardships and struggles, but it's been worth it.
Yes, and so here, what do you think that, because what I believe is that there's a lot of, when it comes to the space or the moon or the Mars, or when we talk about space in general, there's a
Mhm.
lot and a lot of misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of no, and then some of it is right, and then some of it is wrong, and some of it is by the ex NASA employees, and it just goes on and on and on. So,
Yeah.
what are some latest thing that you'd want to share with us about the space? Some latest discovery or something.
So let me think. Discovery. Right now, our focus at NASA is mostly on the Artemis missions, the challenges of living in space, because our human body is not designed to survive in space, right? There is no atmosphere, there is no gravity, there is extreme radiation. If we go to space just like this in a short sleeve environment, we're going to be dead in 2 minutes because there's no breathable air. It's all vacuum, right? So we need spacesuits to be able to survive. We need support systems basically. Even if we're planning to go to moon and live for now, we've gone to moon before as a part of the Apollo missions. But did we stay there permanently? No, we came back. Now we're going back to the moon to set up a base so that then we can test technologies on the moon. Moon is going to be our test bed, and astronauts are going to be living there for long durations. We're going to test technologies like habitat. Moon and Mars don't have atmospheres. Mars has an atmosphere, but most of it is toxic for us because it's 95% carbon dioxide. We can't survive in that atmosphere. So we're going to need habitats. We are going to need new spacesuits. There's no water, there's no food there. We need to carry water, food, and then we need to find resources on those surfaces and make use of them. Maybe we can grow vegetables and food on Moon and even on Mars. There are lakes of water that we found beneath the south pole of Mars. So there's a big lake, and we're finding lakes of water. But is that drinkable water? No, it's in frozen form. We will have to process it to be able to drink. So, what are the technologies we will need to develop for that and the tools? We will have to take them all to the moon, test them out because can we today we can send astronauts to Mars, okay, with the technology that we have. But is it safe? No, we haven't tested out all these habitats, these water recycling systems. We need to test them. And if we send them directly to Mars and have them test them there, what if they fail? It will be a danger to the astronauts, the lives of the astronauts, right? They won't survive. A Mars mission is going to be at least 2 to 3 years, considering the distance, the time taken to travel. It will take up to 6 to 7 months to travel to Mars and to 6 to 7 months to come back from Mars. That's almost a year and a half or a year at least, right? And then when we go there, we're going to stay there for at least a year, right? And when we have to plan the missions such that Mars and Earth, they're aligned closely next to each other, which happens only every 2 years. Okay, they're really far, and you can't launch to Mars when it's really far from Earth because that will cost us a lot of fuel and time, right? So we have to wait for the 2 year window when they're right next to each other. So you're looking at a 2.5 to 3 year Mars mission. Okay, and for that, the astronauts will need that much time to travel back and forth. So we can't send them with technologies we haven't tested. But we'll be putting them at risk. We'll be putting them at like on a one-way mission where there's a chance they will die there because they couldn't get help immediately from Earth if something fails. That is the reason why what we are doing is Moon is closer to us, right? We can test our technologies on Moon, and if something goes wrong, we can get our astronauts back, or we can send help to them. That is why we are setting up like the Moon as a test bed, where we will test all these future technologies for Mars missions. And once we've done that, then we will plan on traveling to Mars. So the Orion spacecraft is our spacecraft that will be traveling in, and the Space Launch System, which is the newest, most powerful rocket we've ever built, that will be the one that will be launching Orion towards Moon and Mars. So these are our focus right now. And then the other discoveries are NASA has a lot of planetary exploration missions also, right? We found there is water underneath the surface of that ice on Europa, which is Saturn's moon. So Europa might have life under that ice sheet. Do you guys know about that? Because there is an ocean of water, even though the sun's heat does not reach there, but the pull and push, the tug that Saturn causes on Europa, is it Saturn or Jupiter? I keep mixing up the moons of these planets. But yeah, that tug creates heat within the core of that moon, and that is why we think there is liquid water and hydrothermal vents. And here on Earth, hydrothermal vents from where volcanoes erupt. around volcanoes, they have life, microbial life forms. So we feel there might be similar life forms on Europa also. It's just a matter of us going there, digging into that ice, and diving into the water, or sending some probe that can dive into the water and take pictures of those hydrothermal vents to see if there is life. So there are exciting things out there. And then the Kepler planets, because Kepler has been such a favorite mission of mine. Kepler's goal was to look for Earth-like planets, right? In that process, we've found a lot of Earth-like planets now, but they are not around sun-like stars. Our sun is a G dwarf type of star. There are a lot of M dwarf type of stars in our galaxy compared to G dwarfs, compared to our sun-like stars. M dwarfs are smaller, cooler, and dimmer. They are not as hot as our sun. But we found there are a lot of Earth-like planets around those M dwarfs in the habitable zone. What is a habitable zone? Basically, a planet, this area around a star up to which that heat of the star reaches to keep water in liquid form on the planet. So on Earth, Earth is in the habitable zone of our sun. That's called the Goldilocks zone also. It's just right to keep the water in liquid condition. It doesn't freeze or it doesn't evaporate. It's not too hot, not too cold. So we found planets in that habitable zone around M dwarfs. But because M dwarfs are smaller and cooler and dimmer than our sun, so the habitable zone moves in, right? Because their heat reaches only up to this distance, not this far. And so the habitable zone planets are closer to them. So they might be tidally locked. What is tidally locked? Like our moon is tidally locked to our Earth. It can't rotate about itself because the Earth's gravity keeps it locked in one position. So we see the same face of the moon all the time. We don't see the other side because it can't spin around itself. So M dwarf planets around M dwarf stars in habitable zone might be tidally locked. They can't rotate. And for then will they be Earth-like? No, because the Earth rotates, so we have what? Day and night cycles. Those tidally locked planets might not have day-night cycles. The amount of heat, the radiation is different compared to our solar system. So our model has been our solar system because we know this is how the system needs to be to have life on it, right? But M-dwarf is not a model that we are very familiar with. But the bottom line is we found a lot of Earth-like stars, Earth-like planets around stars. Now all we need to do is be able to study them further, their atmospheres. That's what we are doing with the James Webb Space Telescope, which is going to be the biggest telescope that NASA has launched ever. What James Webb Space Telescope is going to do is look at the habitable zone planets, study their atmospheres to see if there are gases that indicate the existence of life, like here on Earth, water vapor in our atmosphere, methane in our atmosphere. These gases indicate that there is life, right? The plants and all the biological systems. Methane is a byproduct of all the biological systems. So, looking for these kind of gases, traces of these gases in the atmospheres of those planets will confirm that there is life on those planets. And then the next step will be develop propulsion technology that will help us travel at light speed and get to those planets to confirm that there is life. So, yeah, these are the kind of discoveries going on. You are right about the misinformation. I get messages also about a lot of things. Two suns in the sky, or the asteroid is going to come crashing on Earth, and communication systems are going to be down. And I always tell people, scientifically, these things are not possible. Think about it. Do your research. Just don't spread. Let's not spread misinformation. And I do my best. Thankfully, because I have this public page and a little bit of following, whoever asks me, I do my best to clarify all the misconceptions so that we have as less false information out there as possible.
Yes, and so the thing is that I was actually reading all about SpaceX and a lot about NASA and a lot about how we could actually live at Mars. So, are there any plans that we might actually be able to live on Mars? Because I know there's a lot of less gravity because of the fact that to all that gravity that the Earth has, there's 38% that of on the Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And the atmosphere is kind of the same, and the sun, the heat that is there is the same for us to survive on. But of course, the space suits and everything. So how was your experience with the space suits, the construction? Because they look very, very fancy, like very like somebody has really, a team has actually put their minds and their efforts and their time into a single suit. Because the suit is really just saving the astronaut's life. The astronaut's life depends on the suit as well.
Yeah. So can I share screens? These screens that I just used to talk to do a talk, they really give you a good idea of the challenges of space flight and what all we will need to prepare for. Can I share that here?
Yes, yes,
Okay, so let me
for
do
sure.
that because this will give a better idea rather than just me talking about it and then going on blabbering and you won't understand a thing. But pictures always speak better, right? They speak louder. So let me share my screen. So, see, you're right. We are preparing to go to Mars, but like I said, we do not have. Our bodies are not designed to survive in space, and so there are a lot of challenges that we need to overcome first before we are able to successfully live and survive on Mars. Sharing is easiest with monitors, works best on a good. Okay, share screen. Okay, do you see my screen here? Okay, let's see. Do you see it now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so like I said, let me breeze through these. Okay, this was the Kepler telescope. Okay, I was talking about this earlier. And now this is where I'm saying, oops, we've been here, we've done that, we've been to the moon, we've built the space station. These are our future destinations. And we have to prepare for space travel, right? We need technology that can help us. These are fun pictures because I like space movies, and I'm sure many of you do. So I've just included these from the movies. But these are things we still don't have. We don't have a technology that will be able to help us travel faster. With the current technology, like I said, it will take us 6 to 7 months to get to Mars, okay? And then 6 to 7 months to get back from Mars. We don't have these suits. These are biosuits. Biosuits are challenging to develop because what takes up the most space in a spacesuit is the life support system that supplies the oxygen and the water to the astronaut, right? It has to recycle the air that the astronaut is breathing inside the spacesuit. The CO2 that he exhales needs to be recycled, and he needs to be passed oxygen through that spacesuit. So that life support system is huge, which makes the spacesuit heavy. Today, if you look at it, the spacesuit is about 250 pounds. That's on the International Space Station that astronauts use to do spacewalks. Can you imagine that 250-pound spacesuit? Of course, in zero gravity, you don't feel all that weight, but these spacesuits are not very comfortable, not very flexible. Astronauts get bruised on their elbows, on their joints, because the spacesuits are not very comfortable. But they are trying their best on with the spacesuits on the space station today. The spacesuits are not one size fits all. Our female astronauts, those current spacesuits are really huge for them when they're doing spacewalk. But they just train for hours and then they adapt. But these spacesuits won't be useful to us on Moon or Mars because Moon and Mars have some gravity. So that 250-pound spacesuit is going to be really heavy to walk around with, right? And so we are developing this new spacesuit, but we still are not where we can develop something like this, the Martian suit or the interstellar suit, which are biosuits. Even now, the spacesuit is going to be heavy, but it is going to be robust. It is going to use newer technology for the life support system, so it might be slightly lighter than what we had in the past. But yeah, these are the technologies we are developing when we go to Mars. And this is the slide that talks about how we are going to use the moon as the test bed before we go to Mars. And this is Artemis phase one. We're going to go to the surface of the moon by 2024. There are unmanned space flights planned for the Orion. There will be test flights, unmanned test flights. We are also going to put an orbiting outpost around the moon, like the space station we have right now. We're going to put the gateway, Lunar Gateway. This is the Lunar Gateway. We are going to build a gateway around the moon. The Orion spacecraft will dock to this gateway. Astronauts will use a lander to get to the surface. You are seeing my screen, right?
Yes, yes, it's all
Okay.
visible.
Okay. And then the Space Launch System, that's the rocket that we're building that will launch astronauts to the moon and Mars. And this is the spacecraft. So now we know the machines, but what about the humans, the physio-psychological challenges? This is what I wanted to talk about. So when you're in space, there is no gravity. The biggest challenge right now is there are a lot of challenges, right? The biggest is the extreme
Yeah.
amount of radiation we are exposed to. We take our
Yes.
atmosphere here on the Earth for granted, but in space, there is no atmosphere. Our atmosphere is filtering out all the radiation, right? And that's how we are safe here on the surface of Earth. But still, we put that sunscreen. In
Yeah.
space, without the atmosphere, you are exposed to the radiation directly. And it's not only the solar radiation, it's also the cosmic and galactic interstellar radiation, which is really harmful to our skin, to our body. We can develop cancer and we will face death in a few months if we are exposed to that amount of radiation. So we need to find out solution on how we can protect our astronauts from that radiation if they are going to be on 2 year, 3 year, month long, more than month long missions on Moon and Mars. That's one challenge. The second is in the lack of gravity. When you're traveling in space, there is zero gravity. And so what happens is here on Earth, we have a sense of orientation, right? We have a sense of direction. This is up, this is down. We know that because of gravity. But in space, there is no gravity. So there is no up or down. Our brain gets disoriented. Our neurovestibular system gets disoriented. So astronauts get nauseous. They tend to get sick when they're up in space for the first couple of days. And their body adapts gradually, but it takes time and it doesn't completely ever feel like you are in gravity. But yeah, you adapt and then you start working. But that's a challenge. Plus, all the body fluids are rushing to the upper part of your body because there's no gravity to pull it down, right? So when all these body fluids rush to your upper portion, to your face, your brain gets squished. It's called the intracranial pressure. Your eyeballs get squished. Astronauts who have been on the space station, they have lost a little vision because of this intracranial fluid pressure, okay, which is not good on the long term. In 6 months, if they can lose the vision, imagine what will happen for a 2 to 3 year mission. And yes, the vision adjusts back once you're back in gravity, but it never fully recovers. So that's another challenge. When there is no gravity, your bones and your muscles get weak. It's called, you lose bone and muscle basically. It's called atrophy, bone and muscle atrophy. Because in gravity, you use your bones and legs of the, bone and muscle of the leg, right, to walk, to fight gravity. Every step we take, we're fighting against gravity. So our leg, bone, and muscle are really strong. But in zero gravity, you have no use of it. So they get weak then. They start losing the, if you don't use your body part, it's like use it or lose it. That's what our brain is programmed to do. So you start losing it.
I was just laughing. I was just laughing on, use it or
Or
lose
lose
it.
it. Yeah, that's how our brain is programmed. So we start losing bone and muscle. In 6 months, astronauts lose a lot of bone and muscle. Like old women here on Earth, women are known to lose a lot of bone, right? Osteoporosis is an issue for older women. Astronauts develop that in 6 months on the space station. So imagine what will happen to them when they are traveling to Moon and Mars for months and years. So that's another challenge. We need to figure out. That is why astronauts do exercise on the space station for 2 to 3 hours every day when they are on the space station to keep their bone muscle and um, leg muscle and bone strong. Sorry. And then
Yeah.
here on Earth we have the day-night cycle, right? But in space there is no day-night cycle. So we are so used to this day-night cycle, we start falling asleep as it gets to be night. But and if we don't sleep well, how do we feel? We feel cranky. We are not up to our best. We cannot perform up to our best. Our performance gets affected also. So in space, without this, astronauts are known to not get enough sleep, and that's a big challenge as well. And then there is psychological impact. You are away from your loved ones for years. You are traveling in a tin can. You're going to live in a habitat which is a closed, confined environment again, because you can't just step out like here we do on Earth for a walk. You can't be in your shirt and just go out for a walk, right? You have to have a spacesuit on, which is again a confined environment. So it's very uncomfortable. All these kind of challenges are what we have to face, physical and psychological, and that's what these few of my slides talk about: the neurovestibular imbalances, how it affects your brain, the muscular skeletal system weakening, how your body's muscle and bone gets affected, the circadian rhythms. I'm telling you, when I travel from this end of the planet to the other end of the planet when I'm visiting family in India, it's on the other side, right? So there is a 24-hour travel time, and then there might be some transit time. So and it's day here and it's night there. Even in that,
Yeah.
our bodies get so severely affected. We get jet lag. It takes 2 to 3 days for adults to adapt. My kids, it takes them a week to adapt. We're sleeping at 4 o'clock. We are sleeping at 4, 5 in the evening. We are waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning. It's crazy. So even in this short amount of time, if that's what havoc it causes on our bodies, imagine what will happen on deep space missions. So these are all the challenges. Then there are mood and performance dynamics. Your moods will change. You're living in a confined environment. It affects you in some way. There are cultural issues, communication issues. When you go to Mars, there is a communication delay, right? Because Mars is so far from us. It takes a signal about 14 to 20 minutes to arrive on Mars from Earth, when Earth, depending on how far or close the planet is to Earth. And so, if one signal, one message you want to send to astronauts, it's going to take 15 to 20 minutes. One signal they have to send you back, it's going to take 15 to 20. So, both ways, the communication takes at least a half hour. And if something bad happens and astronauts are waiting on mission control to make a decision, what will happen to them? They'll be dead by the time mission control sends them a signal back. So those are going to be some issues as well. Plus, every day you're doing the same thing, same tasks. That gets challenging. We were in HERA mission, the analog missions I've done. Those for the first few days you're really excited, you're doing something new, you're going to be on a mission, but after a while it starts to get really boring, monotonous, and that's another challenge as well. For a few months it's fine. What for years? What will you do? So what NASA has been doing is we're testing out, we're sending astronauts to the space station for year-long missions now. Until now, astronauts have been up there only for 6 months. Now we're sending them for year-long missions. Like Scott Kelly, he was on space station with Mikhail Konyenko for a year. How does radiation, lack of gravity affect their bodies for long durations? And here on Earth, we are doing simulations like with people like me who are like analog astronauts. We were locked down in these habitats for 14-day missions to see how we can work together, survive in this kind of an environment, extreme and psychological confinement. And these are a couple of missions that I was a commander for. So I won't get into that and take up all of your time, but you get the idea. These are the challenges, and we are preparing in these ways by doing a lot of research, by doing a lot of studies to understand how we're going to survive on Moon and Mars.
Yes. And so we also had a question, and I was also going to ask like the same question. So how long is the training before the space travel? How long does the astronaut train?
Okay. So every space program has their own way of training and hiring astronauts. Like I'll talk about NASA because I'm here and I'm a NASA astronaut aspirant. So for NASA, like the selection process itself is year long. Like we have applied in March now, right? In March, NASA had opened up the astronaut application. I applied in March. Now we have to wait for a year to find out who is going to get selected. There have been 12,000 applicants. Can you believe that? Out of that 12,000, I'm one. Imagine my chance. Every applicant has a very, very slim chance. Luck is a big factor, like a lot of astronauts have told me. So yeah, you put in your best. And then after they select the crew, that they are called NASA astronaut candidates. Okay, once the selection happens, they will be announcing them next June. So there will be about I'm guessing based on what I've seen, they'll hire about 12 to 14 NASA astronaut candidates. They're candidates till they finish their 2-year training program with NASA. So if I make it, then I'll be hired by NASA as an astronaut candidate in June or July of next year. And then there will be a 2-year training program where we will be training here at Johnson Space Center. Then our international partners are Russia, Canada, Europe, right? The European Space Agency, Russian Space Agency, and Canadian Space Agency, Japanese Space Agency even. So astronauts go train there as well with them. and then they come back. Their astronauts come here at NASA to train here as well. So it's a 2-year training program. Once the training is complete successfully, if you complete the training, if you survive through all of that, then you are graduated to NASA astronaut. Then you become a NASA astronaut. So just recently in February, the newest NASA astronauts candidate class graduated. They finished their training and they graduated. So I don't know if you got to watch that, but it was awesome to watch them graduate and go on to become NASA astronauts. So it's a 2-year long training program. This commercial space flight is also another alternative right now. You guys also can. Project Cosmos, there is no guaranteed space flight though, let me tell you. And there is a lot of out-of-pocket expense because it's commercial, right? The people who are running the program, they need to get funds also. So you can apply to Project Possum, projectpossum.org, and there's a week-long training at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida. I did that in 2016. And then you get to participate in research missions. So the commercial spaceflight research project Possum, that has only a week's training program. But again, I think NASA's is the actual official program that will take you to Moon and Mars. So you can I did the Scientist-Astronaut Candidate thing to get the experience, to develop the skills, to test myself. And then I got to fly in the research missions, which was really awesome also. So I'm getting these experience, putting them on my astronaut application. Hopefully, they will make my application stronger.
Yes, and I was just imagining, what if you actually get selected, and what if you would be going to moon? I can't even call you on the moon. I mean, yes, you probably don't have your phone on the moon.
Amen to all of that you said. Thank you. I hope it comes true. And it will be like all my life has been worth all the efforts that I've taken. It will be like that. क्या बोलते हैं ना in Hindi we say everything just सार्थक हो गया. It complete हो गया. My life is complete now. The value of my life is, I don't know, I can't even describe in words, but it will mean a lot to me. It will be like my lifelong dream, and my journey, my efforts, everything will come true. And yeah, I do want to go to the moon and Mars and contribute to all this science. I think I've lived my life fully here on the earth. I have a family, I've raised my boys, I'm done. NASA, I'm the right candidate to send to moon and Mars. I'm ready to contribute to all this research that we will be doing, because we know for sure when you go to moon and Mars, your bodies are going to be affected negatively. Okay, so all astronauts know that in mind. There is no guarantee you might even come back, no matter how prepared we are. Sometimes things go wrong. We've seen that happen with some missions, right? We've lost our astronauts. So knowing all this, yeah, I'm fully prepared to contribute to all the research we'll be doing.
Yes, and so is the training also done in Florida for the Possum?
Possum training is done in Florida. The training for NASA astronaut candidates. So Johnson Space Center here in Houston is the home of astronauts, you can say. All human spaceflight is here. Astronauts live and work here. That is how I got to meet a few astronauts here at JSC, and it was really exciting. They come in our labs for training, actually, in our sim lab. That's when I got to meet some of them. So all the training happens here. I also get to be a human test subject, which is also a contribution towards the astronaut program, because as a human test subject, you have to go through a medical exam, complete medical exam. You need to have perfect vision and hearing, and they test your blood to see if you're doing drugs or bad things to your body. So that's what I tell the youth also. If you aspire to be an astronaut, stay healthy. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't drink even fruit juices or sodas, because I want to keep my body in its perfect natural condition. And that's how, even at this stage, I am able to be a human test subject, contribute to all the study that we are doing here. Whenever they need human test subjects, I volunteer. These are the studies that we are doing to help our astronauts survive on Moon and Mars. So, yeah, everything related to human spaceflight happens here at Johnson Space Center in Houston.
So that's awesome. So, are there any simulator kind of things, just to make like the astronaut feel like they're actually on moon? So, are there any simulators that are made for that?
So here at in Houston, there is, so not exactly like moon. but we can simulate the lunar and the Martian gravity. There is a system called the Argos. If you look it up, I wouldn't remember its full form right now. But at Johnson Space Center, in a building, we have the Argos system. The astronauts are tethered to big crane-like structure, and you can simulate lunar gravity and Martian gravity in that. And then where astronauts actually train for spacewalks in zero gravity, right? How can we simulate zero gravity here on Earth? One is fly the parabolas like I've done to test the spacesuits in airplane. I flew in the Falcon 20. I put on a spacesuit and we fly parabolas. So when you're climbing on the side of the parabola is an upside down U, right? So when you're climbing on the parabola, you're pulling G's. It's like as if 2, 3 elephants are sitting on your chest. Then at the top of the parabola, you start floating. There is zero gravity. Then you perform all your tasks in that 23 seconds of zero gravity. And then it dives down again. Again, you're pulling G's. So I've flown 56 such parabolas. So that's the best way to simulate zero gravity. But there's another way. Go under the water, because water has that buoyancy, right? So that's the closest you can simulate zero gravity here on Earth as well. So here in Houston, we have a huge lab called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. I'm mixing words. It's a swimming pool, basically. Okay, it's a 40 feet deep swimming pool, which has a mock-up of the space station in it. A mock-up of the space station in it, and astronauts put on their space suits, and they are put in the water, and then they perform their spacewalks under the water. There are divers around to help them if something goes wrong, but that's where they train for hours for their EVAs, that is extravehicular activities that they perform on the space station. In underwater, I've done scuba training, right? So you have this 80-pound backpack on your back that has the air tank that you're breathing, right? It's so heavy, I have to lug it around at the edge of the swimming pool. But once you're in the water, it becomes light. It starts floating, right? So you don't feel that weight at all. It's similar to what you experience in zero gravity. And that is how the astronauts who are in the 250-pound spacesuit, they can perform their tasks under the water and train for zero gravity. So yeah.
I get scared in like 6 to 7 feet of water because I'm almost like over 5 feet, but I'm like I'm so scared. 40 is like times 8.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm telling you,
good that like they have divers around to take care of the astronauts.
I mean, I never grew up swimming. Swimming was not a thing when we were growing up. Now it's a thing, right? You go for swimming lessons. So when I came to the US and then I decided to pursue this route, I'm like, that one of the criteria for in the astronaut application you will see is you need to be able to swim in water, tread in water for 20 minutes. You need to be able to go back and forth a certain distance they've given like several times. So you need to be strong and and be able to survive in the water. So it was a challenge. I decided to take my first swimming lessons. I did good. I got good at swimming, but I couldn't go beyond 5 feet. Okay, and the same feeling that you get. Right? And then when I decided to take scuba lessons, they put me at the bottom of the 12-feet pool at the deepest end, at 12 feet bottom. Even though I had the tank of oxygen and I was breathing, that was the biggest fear of my life, I'm telling you. I've never had any fears until then. On my birthdays, I've skydived from 15,000 feet. Okay, I was never scared of that, diving from 50. It was fun, but somehow being at the bottom of the pool was the scariest thing to me, I discovered. But then first day I struggled a lot. I came back, I was bruised and hurt, and I was really depressed. Then I told myself, are you really going to give up? How are you going to become an astronaut then? And I calmed myself down. It's all in my head. All the fear is in my head. I can do this. I can overcome this. Next day, I went back with that spirit. And it was a little bit of struggle, but I completed my scuba lesson successfully. So that's what I tell everyone. Challenge yourself. And when you overcome your fears, then it feels really satisfying that you did something, you achieved something.
Yes, because there's this, some people have this fear of water like I do and like you did. But because it really helps when you have oxygen, like you could actually breathe, then you could stay there for some while.
See, it's in your mouth. The regulator is in your mouth. You're not breathing through your nose. Your nose is blocked. with that
Oh,
mask that you're wearing. The regulator is in your mouth, and my fear was, what if the regulator slips out? I'm going to drink all that water and drown. It was funny, but it was good to know that I do have a fear, and then you're psychologically you train yourself to adapt to that situation, right? And so it's always it's fun. It's fun to put yourself in that kind of situation and then overcome that fear.
yes, overcoming your fears is like something that's really fun.
Mm.
I had fears of many things. I'd even see even now I'd see a snake on the TV and I'd scream all the way in the house. This is on the TV, so
I think you wouldn't
bizarre
here.
things.
Yeah.
I had fear of turtles, and then one of my uncles bought one. So I used to play with
Oh,
that
okay.
turtle.
Okay.
Yeah, I even gave him a bath sometimes. It was really interesting. We both
Cool.
became friends.
Yeah. 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 That's
So
cool.
don't like if you look back now to your childhood, don't you feel like once I wanted to be on the stars and now I got to research on the stars and now possibly I would actually be on the stars. So
Mhm.
like how do you feel after all that? And how was your family's reaction to you working in NASA?
So see, it is going to be like I said, is going to be like all my journey has come to fruition now, right? I've always said because this is such a tough dream, a tough goal to pursue, right? There is no guarantee of success. That's what I tell everyone. Even you prepare all your life, you work towards this goal, enjoy the journey, but you choose a career, a job, a degree that will give you satisfaction on every day. You'll be happy, excited to go to work. Even if you don't make it, you should have something that you'll always look forward to, right? And because this is such a challenging goal, it's not very easily attainable. But like I say, I've been focused on my journey, I've been enjoying it, and if I achieve the destination, nothing like it, everything will be worth it. From the on the family front, like I said, we've grown up in conservative societies. It has been challenging growing up. I couldn't talk about this openly because you know how it would have been, right? I was growing up in the 80s. Oh, you want to become an astronaut, right? You became an astronaut. So I would get sarcastic reactions like that. So I never talked about it a lot openly. I told my dad I want to become a fighter pilot. Dad said, there are challenges. He had himself applied to the Navy, and because of some physical issue, he couldn't get selected. So he had made me aware of this, but I still wanted to go ahead and do it. Then when I decided to do my second master's in aerospace engineering, my husband, my parents, all of them were, no, why do you want to do this? You have a full-time job, you have a 3-year-old son, you have a big house. Why do you want to do this at this age now? I was 30 at that time. And my friends are like, why do you want to slog so much now at this stage in life, Anima? So there was no support actually. Everyone was really resistant. My husband was resistant because I was working as well, and in the evening I had to go for classes, which was about an hour's drive from my at the San Jose State University. Hour's drive from my home, and he's like, "I'm not going to take care of Anish when he would be in a bad mood." I had to take my son with me to my classes. My classmates remember seeing Anish when he was 3, and now he's 17. They remember seeing him. Oh, he was so small. Now he's grown up so much. When you would bring him to classes, he was so small. So it was a struggle, but and their concern was right also, right? They thought you're a mom, you won't be able to do justice to your family. But what I did was I proved to them through my actions that you all are my first priority, my goals are my second priority. I would stretch myself, do all my duties for everyone, stay up late in the nights to study. It caused a little havoc on my health, but I stretched myself, and they saw how I was doing everything properly for them first. And that's how eventually they came to support me. So my husband, who was resistant in the beginning, he supported me when I went to do HERA. And for him, it was like, koi option hi nahi hai, because I said, I'm going to do this. If you want to support me, support it. So that's how we have to become sometimes, right? But now they're all really supportive. They are really happy to see me here. In fact, it was a big move. We were in California all these years, 20 years. And when I decided, I've been putting it off because my husband would tell me, our boys are small. Don't relocate them now. Let them be in this area. Because the place we were in California, it's a beautiful place to raise kids. So they went to the schools. They had friends since childhood. And I kept putting off coming here because here is where everything is happening in human spaceflight, right? So I wanted to be here from a long time. But then when my work on Kepler mission got over, I told my husband, now it's now or never for me. Now that project is over, so this is the right time. Let's move to Houston. So they were first, my boys and him were really resistant, but then eventually they came around. I told them, guys, please support me. It's now or never. So they've been very understanding, and I'm thankful that my mom and dad, they also came to take care of my younger one when he was born. I was finishing my master's. They took care of him for almost a year, and they've all been very supportive. Now they moved from California to Houston. I've had that guilt, like as a mom, we always have the guilt, and so I had the guilt. I uprooted them from there, but now seeing how they're in a better situation here on all fronts compared to when they were in California, it makes me feel happy. So we are all adjusting, adapted now. That's how it's been. So yeah, they're happy for me. In fact, when the astronaut application was announced in February, my husband said, "Good, now go for it, apply, and all our move will be worth it from California to Houston." So it was a good feeling to me to see that he's saying that now. Otherwise, he was like always resistant, right? Now when he's saying that, it's really I really felt excited. I thought it was a sign that okay, things are going to work out for me this time. But
Yes.
yeah, family support matters a lot when you're doing something. If you be in a conflicting state or a resistant state all the time with your family, it's not going to be very healthy for you and for them. So just prove to them that you are there for them. You're going to do your duties for them, and then you're going to do your thing, and they'll come to support you.
Yes, and now because our interview is coming to an end, I didn't even feel like 50 something minutes. Just flight away. We were talking about space and suits and well a lot of things. And inshallah, we will talk again. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for telling us so much about the space. And for the first time, I felt like astronaut is a way harder job than I thought it would be. There's, you could actually lose your vision. I mean, dying is another thing, but you could lose your vision and you could lose your muscles or your bone, and then you don't have to smoke or to drink or to take any other sort of drugs just to maintain that body, just to maintain that natural state of the body.
Actually, a lot of astronauts do here, right? In American culture, it's a part of the culture. They drink like beer, and I don't know to what extent and all that, but I've never done that, or no one in my family drinks or anything. So I said it that yeah, that's the best way to be. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
there are astronauts who drink and all, but I have what I have done with myself. That's all. So I don't want to have a misconception that you can't drink or and that's not how
Yes,
it
better
is.
not, but it's always better.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So now because our interview is coming to an end, I would love that you could give one message to all the youth in our audience.
So what I want to say is, dream big. Whatever you feel passionate about, follow that dream. But remember, be prepared to fail because from failures you learn, right? And be prepared to never give up. Be persistent. No matter what dream you have, it doesn't have to be being an astronaut. It can be anything else that you're passionate about. Being an artist. My son, I think, he has a skill, a talent. He does really good sketches, so I'm going to encourage him in that if that's what he wants to do. So it's like that. Whatever interests you, whatever you're passionate about, choose that as your career, and you will do good at that, and you will enjoy working in that role every single day of your life. So that's very important. Choose what you're passionate about. Never give up, no matter what hardships you come through. Look at me. My journey has been full of hardships, but I've never given up yet. And always be willing to work really hard for your dreams, for your and take everyone with you on your journey. That's all. Wishing you all the best, upwards and onwards.
Thank you so much. And I have another request. I
Sure.
looked you up. I actually saw a lot of things from your page, and I know that you're very good at singing. So can you please
Oh,
sing us a song, Choti Si Asha,
Choti
because
Si
yeah.
Sure. I hope it comes out right.
Yeah, and particularly on
Chand
a solo.
taro ko. Sorry.
I was
Sorry.
just saying that I'm putting you on a solo layout. Now
Oh,
it's your
okay.
turn.
Thank you. You can be there also. You sing with me too.
I don't even know the lyrics,
Okay. I'll
but
make it
we'll
easy.
sing together one day. Today it's your day. Okay.
Oh, thank you. चांद तारों को छूने की आशा आसमानों में उड़ने की आशा दिल है छोटा सा छोटी सी आशा मस्ती भरे मन की भोली सी आशा. That's
Thank
good.
you so much. Thank you so
And
much. It was so good. I really thought that you took some sort of training, but then I was like, she's also an astronaut, also a singer, and there's too much to have.
I wish I could get that training, but like my dad was not very encouraging about getting training in classical singing and dancing. I did want to learn Bharatnatyam and some classical singing when I was growing up, but that never happened. But I would sing. I was a part of our school's singing group. We would sing. What is that, Christmas carols. We would be a part of the Christmas plays and stuff, so we would sing a lot of variety of songs as a group. So I've been an amateur singer basically and an amateur dancer. I've participated in cultural activities through school and college and university, and even now I do that actually when we have Diwali performances or something or the other always.
Yes, you always have Diwali or you have Holi. You have in every religion or every culture you have times to dance on.
Yeah, exactly.
Weddings.
Yeah, weddings. That's a part of our cultures, right? Yeah. But look
Yes,
at you, you're sitting
Pakistani
doing
weddings and
right?
yeah, Pakistani weddings and Indian weddings are very, very similar.
Yep.
There's the same bride, the same kind of the guy that the groom that we have. So it's really, really interesting, and we always get to dance.
It was one country at a time, right? I have a lot of
Yeah,
friends, like at St. Joseph's, we are a mixed group, right? Of all religions and of all cultures. I have a lot of friends from backgrounds like yours, and we've been so good friends for all these years. We go to their homes, so and they participate in our festivals, and it's like a good mix, and so it's really keeping that positive thing is really important. I mean, we have been so when we were growing up, our dad, even though we are Hindus, our dad would take us to gurudwaras and to masjids. We've been to Ajmer every year. Whenever I go to Mumbai, I go to the Haji Ali Dargah. I believe in it so much. So that's how we've been raised, right?
yeah.
And keeping that alive is really important.
It is, and I don't think so. We should let a religion or a nationality come
Exactly.
into our friendship because I have Jew friends, I have friends who are Hindus or Christians or a lot of other. I even have atheist friends. So I
Hmm.
really believe that we shouldn't let our religion, come in between friendships. And if
Yep.
you have a friend from another religion, also cherish that. Get to see because I got to be in a church with one of my Christian friends, and she took me there. So she
Yeah.
was in Pakistan, and I was like, let's go. So it was
Yeah.
really interesting, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
see, there's a lot of similarities between us. Then
Hmm.
there are differences. And I
Yeah.
think with this, we are ending our broadcast. Thank you so much for coming. And to
Thank
the audience, thank you so much for watching. There's so many comments that I did not get to put on the screen, but I
you.
will read, and I usually do read them later on. So don't think that I ignore them. And thank you so much
Okay.
for watching. And inshallah, we'll come again with another personality. So thank you so much and goodbye.
Thank you, Raheen. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a good one. See you.